Welcome to our first day of our tillage event, the C&B operations. My name is Matt Hubner, Sales Representative, Tracy, Minnesota.
I'm Nate Jansen, Product Specialist.
I'm Jeff Buick, Vice President of Precision Ag. We want to set the stage for what we're going to see in our examples from the plot that we did this year in Mitchell, South Dakota. We used 150 acres of farm ground to perform a variety of tests on corn from land preparation, planting, to crop care, all the way to harvest. We took a look at how different configurations and options that are available for each production step can have on your operation.
Absolutely. So the field we used was a prevent plant field from 2019 that had a cover crop planted. Now this spring we used both a 2210 and a 2660 VT to prepare our seed bed. Now the soil types in the plot are pretty much consistent. About 77% of the plot is a carno loam. About 15% being a hand loam with a little bit of Prosper Stickney complex running around about 3% of the field composition.
Yeah, that's right, Nate. For our tillage trial, we planted a 79-day corn and killed it off early. So this was like a 40-acre section of the plot in the corner of the field that we look at, right? So because we killed it off early, when we come to harvest time, the corn was around 13.2 to 13.5%. Actually dried down quite a bit more than what we predicted it to. Our yield was around 180 bushels per acre. So there was still plenty of plant residue for the corn head and the combine to really process and then lay back on the ground evenly to be ready for tillage this fall.
Yep, absolutely. So we split up this corner of the plot to showcase different types of knife rolls on our corn heads. And now we've got three different types of knife rolls that we used. We used an opposed, the new chopping stock roll, along with an intermeshing stock roll. Then also compared them with Stockmaster turned on and Stockmaster turned off. Now these tests were replicated across three different tillage applications, which between the 2 days we'll be talking about a 2680H today, and then tomorrow we'll be talking about our 2660 vertical tillage tool, along with the 2730 combination ripper, and then how it performed really amongst each of the stock rolls.
We took our compaction probe that you can purchase from our parts counter and probe the soil in your field to see what kind of compaction we're dealing with. It didn't seem to matter where we tested the field. Each test came back with 300 psi. In many cases, we see 200 psi or less with many of our customer soils. So this loam ground at the plot was compacted and was in need of some tillage.
As a result, the tillage tools had a harder time penetrating the soil for our tests. When we went out there with some of our first passes across the field, we had to check to make sure we had it set to go on the ground in some situations. So even though that was the case, every year is different in the operation. Yep. So this year was a tough year for tillage, but we still wanted to show you the results in a heavily compacted soil type of situation. Now, you put these tools on a little different scenario, they're going to perform differently as well. But that's the whole point of doing these plots, is to show you that over time, different conditions, dry, wet, mud, whatever it happens to be, that's the beauty of doing it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the primary goals of our tillage, in this case, like Jeff said, it's looking at real world conditions. Now across most of our trade area this last fall, we had harder conditions, had a little more residue than we originally expected, which allowed, or basically created a little more residue, along with a little bit harder penetration for all of our different tillage types, be it a ripper, a disc, our combination tools that we'll be talking about as well. So wavy coulters, straight blades, concave blades, all had different types of, I'll say, issues this last fall, but there's great ways to overcome them, and there's right tools for the right jobs. So we want to make sure we take a look at each of those different options. Now looking at our plot specifically, again we're going to talk about the 2680H tillage tool today. Now to get a proper look at this, we want to first take a look at how the field looked before we ran any tillage across it. So if we look at the image on the screen, we're first going to look at our opposed stock rolls with Stockmaster turned off. Now for a lot of these tests, we're going to look at Stockmaster turned off just to have consistent comparisons across the different styles of stock rolls. So first looking at the opposed Stockmaster off, right down the center you can kind of see the blossom top. Just to the right, you can see where our Stockmaster on trial was for the same stock rolls. Now, if we go ahead and look, one of the things that we were really interested to learn this last fall is about our new chopping stock rolls and how they would perform in each of these different tillage scenarios. So here we have our chopping stock rolls with Stockmaster turned off. You can see them just to the right there where the Stockmaster was also turned on to the little sharper point. But the point of these chopping stock rolls being doing all of our stock processing without having to have the lawnmower style blades running underneath.
You can also tell how it takes the residue and puts it right next to the row itself, where the Stockmaster, is going to be throwing that trash across everything pretty evenly as well. And so that's another thing when you take a look at some of these pictures, you can see that as well. The other thing we want to call out is just the height. And in some of the passes through the field, the corn head was actually running a little bit higher on one corn head with one type of stock roll than the other. So there is a little bit of difference there. Some of our stocks were just a tiny bit longer in some of those scenarios.
Our first tool we're going to look at is going to be the 2680H high-speed disc.
My name is Diane Geist, and I work in the whole goods processing department at CMB Operations. What I like best, besides my coworkers, is probably the interaction with the public and coworkers from other locations, because we have 38 dealerships across 6 states. We hire local contractors, we shop locally. Everything revolves around the local community. I think the perfect fit for CMB is for someone who wants to have more than just a paycheck.
Today we have the 2680H high-speed disc. Primarily this is going to be a fall used tool in cornstalk residue and also small grain. We've got a very heavy-duty plated steel frame with this for getting down into compaction and turning the soil black and high residue areas. So here we got the heavy-duty frame, which is able to withstand the pulling this machine at 14 miles an hour. Inside here we've got gusseted, extra reinforcement, heavy-duty plate steel, all tied together so we can pull this machine at 14 miles an hour for optimum productivity in the fall. Then also with the high-speed disc, we have the high flotation tires for as reduced compaction as possible and as much flotation as we can. Deere also offers the extra high flotation tires out on the wings, the same as what we offer on the main frame. So here we have the front disc gangs. Front disc gang is set at 17 degrees. The rear one is set at 14 degree angle. And also each individual mounted blade is held with one of these rubber torsion in each corner for each blade to be able to go up and down independently of each other in a 7-inch swing either way, so they can independently go around obstructions, rocks in the field. The front gang here blade is notched for its optimum chopping and sizing of residue and bearing. So the front one at the 14 miles an hour speed passes it off the front one and into the second one for the best mixing and stirring of the soil. The reason we have 10-inch blade spacing is so we can hand our material off from the front gang to the back gang with minimal horsepower use, because as we hand this off, it's in mid-air going to this back gang and not having the back gang to pick it up and remix it all over again. So it's going through mid-air, going here to hand off to this one, to the second gang, and then completing our mixing and residue management. 7 degrees is our recommended heading angle going through the field, so we pull the root balls out of the field and onto the ground for the field to be left level and smooth. So a 25-inch rubber roll is going to give us our best field finish for a flat, smooth seed bed prep to plant into the following spring. So on the front here with the disc gangs, we have the option of either having the notched in the front and smooth in the back. We can also have notched front, notched rear, and then also have solid rear and solid front. The notched front is going to give us our better residue management and chopping of the residue. If we want to get very extreme with how we size our residue, we can have notched front and notched rear, If we want to do as much turning of the soil and just cutting and turning and mixing, we can do solid and solid in front and rear configuration. With our closing, finishing, we can do a 25-inch rubber roll, 25-inch spring roll, or the 28-inch round bar cage roller. So on the back of the rubber roll here, we have the option of having a hydraulic scraper that can be active or inactive. In dry conditions, sandier soils, we can hydraulically raise the scraper out of the way, and as conditions worsen, we get more moisture, get things to stick to the rubber roll, we can activate the hydraulic scraper and move it into the rubber roll to keep the residue and dirt out of the rubber roll and keep it clean. Also, we have high wear weld, high surface weld here to keep these scrapers here from wearing prematurely. So the advantage to the 2680H is it's low maintenance. It has the greaseless bushings, self-sealed bearings on all the disc blades, high flotation tires, the hydraulic swing away on the rubber roll, the single point depth control system which we have here makes this tool a very low maintenance and easy tool to run in the field. So the single point ease of this machine is very simple. Matter of pulling the clip, pulling the pin, setting your stops down, and repeating on the rest of the cylinders makes this machine very simple and very easy to change your working depth. The other nice thing about the 2680H high-speed disc is its color-coded chart here for the hydraulic hoses, where they go and where they're labeled to on the machine, as they are colors shown here. Also, having the hydraulic adjustable jack is very handy. Not having to screw in a raise and lower a manual jack, having the hydraulic adjustable jack makes an ease of hooking and unhooking. So here you can see the ease of changing the machine from 2 inches to 6 inches using these stops and having the chart on the machine for the ease of changing your working depth.
Compared to other John Deere dealerships, here at C&B Operations, we offer a unique solution to answer the quick questions related to John Deere Precision Ag Technologies through our very own C&B Precision Ag Support Center. We understand, for many of you, that you don't sit in front of a Green Star display every day of the year like we do. Our trained staff is focused on your operations uptime related to precision ag technology, and we have multiple resources at our fingertips to answer your questions, no matter if you are in the cab, at your desk, or on your mobile device. We are ready to serve you. Pay as you go by calling in when you need assistance, or prepay for unlimited phone support during normal operational hours. Disclaimer: side effects may include, but are not limited to, stress-free planting and harvest seasons, constant smiling, fainting by your local FSA and crop insurance agent due to ease of reporting, jealous neighbors or coffee shop buddies due to how well your data looks, people questioning why you are in such a good mood, ability to select the correct guidance line when you are in the field, much improved golf swing, and year-round tan due to not cleaning data all winter. Visit any one of our C&B Operations locations to get signed up, or contact us here at the Support Center at 507-200-3060. For more information, visit us in the store or online at deerequipment.com.
So what's cooler, going 5 miles an hour or 14 miles an hour when doing fall tillage?
I feel the need for speed.
Exactly. So going 14 miles an hour is cool and awesome. The 2680H high-speed disc will give you 12.5% more productivity per hour than most conventional tillage tools.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you can be a little bit more productive, and also by not doing the deep tillage. Now again, every operation is going to be a little bit different. Not doing the deep tillage is not going to wear as fast. So you can think about a conventional ripper, for instance. You've got a lot more ground contact in terms of deep rippage with the points. That's going to burn off and potentially cost a little bit more.
Yep. So no other tool on the market will size and mix residue like the 2680H high-speed disc. Common crops that we find this 2680H high-speed disc in is going to be primarily corn, small grains, and some soybean stubble. So working depth on this machine is going to be 2 to 6 inches in half-inch increments. And then our choices for rear closing wheels are going to be 25-inch cage roller, 25-inch rubber roll, or the spring roll wheel.
So with the different rolling basket options, Matt, what are some conditions or crop types that you would maybe want to use one over another?
So the rubber roll is going to be primarily our use for planting into. The cage roller is going to be what we're going to want to use in the fall, primarily used. And in the spring roller is kind of a good cross between if we want to smash down the root balls and then also have a nice level seed bed prep for the spring to plant right into. That cage, that spring roller is going to be a nice crossover fit between the two of them.
Absolutely. Some of the things we found running the 2680Hs out in the field, some of the kind of key things to be able to get the most efficiency and the best finish out of the tool. I was running about a 7-degree angle, so nice and easy. You set up your guidance line, hit your resume button after the first pass, and then also running around that 12 to 14 mile per hour range helps mix that residue and helps it flow through the machine. And part of the key of that is the angle that the gangs sit at, Matt, right?
Yeah, so we got 14 degrees in the front and 17 degrees in the rear. The other nice thing about this 2680H is we can put just about anybody in the operator's seat to do tillage. All we have is it's a set point machine, set point depth. So it's just up and down with the lock stops like we've shown in the video. And it's a very nice tool that we can put just about anybody in and get the chores done.
Absolutely. So when we operate the machine out in the field, because of how the 2680H works best, when we turn around on the ends, it's recommended to leave the tool in the ground, which is a little bit of unconventional wisdom, right?
No, yeah.
Because of how we operate that tool, in a lot of cases, now it's going to vary depending on your field, the field shape, the conditions, but a lot of times we like to do a victory lap around the outside of the field, and then we start running inside the field itself. Now, depending on the width of the tillage tool, usually we don't turn around and come back. In the past, we just came down on right next to it. Usually we either like to stripe the field every other pass or do every third and then kind of do a rotational pass.
And then kind of fill it back in again.
Absolutely. So we talked about the efficiency of the machine. There's also a lot of different widths that the machine is available in.
Yes. So the sizes that we have available and offered are 3-point mounted, 8 foot 4 inches through 11 foot 8 inches. And then we have the drawn available 8 foot 4 through 45 feet, 2-section and 3-section frame increments.
All right, let's take a look at some of the residue after we made our first pass of the 2680H. As you can see from the picture, like we talked before, the ground conditions were very hard. We had a lot of stock with that desiccated crop being pretty hard. So again, we want to show you real world conditions here. So this is our 2680H, the opposed stock rolls with Stockmaster turned off. Initial pass. Now if we look down at the ground, it's going to show a little more realistic example rather than just looking over the whole field. Kind of moderate sized trash, the 2680H kind of busted the root balls and helped turn soil on top to help pin it down, which is again where that cage roller is coming into play here. It's helped pinning it down to minimize any chance of wind erosion.
Now, how'd you pick the spot in the field, Nate? Because, you know, just like picking an ear in a field of corn to take to the coffee shop, some people do it at random. Some people are a little more targeted. So how do we, choose where we want to take the pictures and the plot here for these comparisons?
Yep, so this picture, we took it on September 15th, the day we actually did our first pass. We came back to consistent spots in the field later on that was kind of an average overall field representation. Took a bunch of different pictures in different locations and ultimately tried to pinpoint one that we could keep consistent throughout the growing season to ultimately give us a good breakdown of residue throughout the crop year. And again, we're only so far looking September through really the end of November. With spring coming up, there's going to be a lot more story to tell here. And the warm conditions we had this fall in November and December, microbial activity is going to be a little higher than normal. So keeping that consistent spot is going to really give us a good idea of the breakdown over time. Now, if we transition and look at a photo from the 25th of November, looking at the organic matter of opposed stock rolls against Stockmaster turned off, we saw about just under 27.5% surface organic matter. Now, this is going to come into play when we compare the different tillage types and the different stock roll types. So again, looking at the 25th of November here with the 2680H.
So when you say surface organic matter, what we're doing there, as you can see, we went to a black and white photo, and you really did this for the team, Nate, is took the color photo, went black and white, and then just compared to how much of it was black versus how much of it was white to say this is the amount of residue on top, right?
Yep.
I mean, we weren't digging down and trying to resurrect any buried residue or anything like that. That was kind of our way of taking a snapshot of what's still on top of the ground.
Yep, exactly. And trying to create data that's tangible and digestible for everyone. And then being able to use that same format to compare to the different types of stock rolls, the different types of tillage across the plot. So now if we take a look at the chopping stock rolls, which we've had a lot of questions about how these perform in comparison to Stockmaster. In this case, looking at just residue with Stockmaster turned off, we wanted to do kind of a direct comparison. So if we look down at the ground here, we're going to see similar results. And looking at the top of the couple stalks that are still standing there, the tops of them are really blossomed open, which is kind of the design of those chopping stock rolls, is to open up stalks, get microbes and moisture into them to help provide faster breakdown. So when spring hits, the moisture inside is going to warm up a little bit faster and again increase the speed of that breakdown. Now if we look at the 25th of November with this as well, we see about 29% organic matter in comparison to the intermeshing stock roll. So about 1.5 percentage points higher, but ultimately doing the job of a chopping head without any additional fuel usage in this case.
Yeah, we're looking at the size of the material on the ground, right? You can see it's a little bit different here as well. And how many passes did we go over these spots when you take a look at them? Because you talked about making a lap around the edge of the field.
Yep.
So were these pictures taken along the edge where it may have been hit twice, or were you in the middle more?
Yep, so we avoided the spots that were hit twice. So for the comparisons today, along with the comparisons we'll talk about tomorrow with the 2660 and the 2730, we wanted to make sure we looked at single pass in each of these scenarios for direct comparisons.
Sure.
So as we look at all the stock rolls and the different comparisons here today, we saw really pretty consistent results between the chopping stock roll and the intermeshing with Stockmaster turned off. Now we don't have examples up here today, but you turn Stockmaster on, you're going to see a little bit smaller material than what we've seen in these examples. But again, it's going to be a slightly different comparison. For the purposes we talked here today of the 2680 doing that chopping and mixing action, really gives you kind of a good outline of how much of that residue is being buried and pinned down for different soil conditions.
So the 2680H really proves to be a versatile tool, whether you're talking about operating widths, operating speeds, or just operators in general that can hop in the cab and operate this tool in the field. And really gives you flexibility to leverage this tool during multiple times throughout the growing season if needed.
We want to leave you with the different residue breakdowns that each of these tools and stock rolls provided. Each of the intermeshing, the chopping stock rolls, along with talking about the 2680H residue breakdown.
So we invite you to come into any one of our dealerships to find out more about what John Deere has to offer in their comprehensive line of tillage equipment, and even ask to set up a demo. With C&B Operations, I'm Jeff Buick.
I'm Nate Jansen,
I'm Matt Hubner.
committed to being your dealer of choice.
C&B Operations is seeking both new and experienced diesel technicians to meet the needs of its rapidly growing service business. If you have an interest in entering the exciting field of diesel technology, C&B Operations has a plan that's right for you. Enroll in C&B's Road to Success program and get all of your associate's degree related expenses reimbursed while working in a highly rewarding career. Or consider applying for the Diesel Technology Apprenticeship program, which pays you to learn on the job while you are employed full-time. All C&B diesel technicians are eligible for a comprehensive fringe benefit package along with industry-leading pay and incentive programs. For more information, go to www.deerequipment.com.